Welcome to the Threat Insights weekly group call. Thank you for joining us. We'll jump right into the agenda. Savash, you want to verbalize your demo that you added?
Yeah, sure. The refactoring of the folder structure of the front end is now complete. We also removed all the references to first class calls that we still had around. So yeah, now the front end looks much cleaner. That's it. That's done.
Love it. I'm very excited about it. So we've got a couple of items for planning breakdown. Did anyone on the call get a chance to look at these in advance? We don't have Matt here today to answer questions, which is usually really helpful in the planning breakdown, and I'm not sure where he is.
I did look at them like right beforehand.
Okay.
They both seemed fairly straightforward.
I did,
especially the second one. The second one seems pretty straightforward, just all the access that needs to happen with the controllers. And
the second one's more of an audit, right? And I think the outcome of the second issue, maybe we jump right to that one because it's a little bit more simple. So on the agenda, issue 3B, auditor user can access all vulnerability management features. Matt wrote this in a way that looks to me more like an audit. I had considered taking this on myself, but I haven't had the bandwidth. It would have been something that I would have really liked to have, gone through the process of, but instead we're going to put it through our normal planning. So the outcome of this would be a set of issues that represent where the access is incorrect.
Okay. So yeah, I just read it all as being part of the same issue where it is the audit and then the issues all in one.
If we think that's not I feel like that would be a big amount of work, maybe.
I mean, like for one issue, yeah. I mean, like I think issues come out of this issue, but
yeah, it could be lots of work because I just recently worked on the auditor to just add projects in the security center. It's end up being some front end work and also back end work, also playing with policy. If I didn't work before, it can take some time. Yeah.
Do you have an issue that you could link to with that? I'm trying to gather. I know we've had a few issues and I've linked them as related to this. Is it already linked there?
It's already linked there, but it's done. It's already.
Oh, it's the security center project one.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I worked on something similar. I think it was on this milestone or the previous milestone. The auditor user could dismiss, at least from the front end, they could dismiss a vulnerability and then the backend would block it because there was no access. But it was pretty straightforward, the implementation. So I think it's going to be the same. We'll probably have a few places where a user can admin the vulnerability. So should be. I haven't checked the issue in detail, but it should be straightforward.
So it sounds like, again, with refinement, we've talked about how it's the case where one person might think something is very straightforward and the other person sees hidden complication. This is why we go through refinement. So let's not get caught up in solutioning and just think about it in terms of planning breakdown. So approaching this in the way that Matt wrote it, this is an audit, right? What would come out of this would be a set of issues. You can see this column over the right that says implementation issue, right? So once the status is verified, if that status isn't what we expect, we create an implementation issue. So given that, do you think that this can go past planning breakdown and move on to refinement? And then if not, do you have any questions about it? I see Sebastian giving me a thumbs up. Thumbs up from Jonathan.
I'm talking, but I'm not.
Oh, muted. I can't hear you talking.
I know.
Because of the mute.
I'm muted. So yeah, I'm like yes. Ah, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you were just talking to say yes. You didn't have other words with.
No, other than like, yeah.
Okay,
do it.
Cool. Subash, do you have any other questions about the scope of this or what's being requested? You've got a thought.
Yeah, okay, I was trying to unmute myself. So this table on the right side, we have the implementation issue. It means that we have to check that part, like the area. And then for instance, if I look at the table, I see project, vulnerability report, the functionality, and then current status not accessible, status verified no. So we verify that if there is something, if there is the expectation is not met, then we create an implementation issue. This issue is about that, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. And I wish Matt was here because when it says current status, I assume that means that's what we are expecting to see. because this audit hasn't
Yeah.
already been done. All of these are
Yeah.
no. All
I-
of these are no.
I
so we
think-
wouldn't know.
I think that's what he thinks it is based on previous conversations.
What would
That's my
be
guess.
really nice is what it should actually be, right? Not what he thinks it is, but like this is what we're expecting to see. Are
So
you
we should
seeing that or not?
So we should change that title column to what Matt thinks it is right now.
And then add a new column for expected behavior.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with Matt. So let's take a
that would be
note
nice.
on-
Yeah, we do need an
Yeah.
expected behavior because, like you said, there's some that are not supposed to. If I was reading that right, there's some areas that are not supposed to have that.
When I tried it with an auditor user, you cannot see the vulnerability report. So probably with the current status, he means the expectation, I guess. But it will be nice to verify that.
With only some of the areas are supported. Okay.
Okay.
So for Security Center, I realized that like it was accessible to the auditor, but you cannot add projects. So the auditor couldn't see anything on the vulnerability report. So though it was accessible, it couldn't be used.
Well, but the auditor is not supposed to be able to add projects, right?
Now from the settings, they should be able to. That was the bug.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you now.
So I think what you're demonstrating is that the challenge here is to understand what the correct behavior is. Just in this conversation, I see that that's not always so straightforward.
I think I just was not thinking clear because I was thinking, why would the auditor be able to add projects to a user security dashboard? And it's like that was not the case. The auditor is supposed to be able to add projects to the auditor's security dashboard to do read-only.
As part of their audit.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay. So if
Hopefully I
we
cleared
get
that out for any listeners.
if we get the confirmation from Matt on this question, do you guys feel that we need to bring this back to discussion, or can we just move that issue over to refinement and get it assigned off?
I think it's good for refinement.
And
in my case, in my case, like it would be nice to specify the expectation. As soon as we have that, yes, it's good for refinement. Or actually, do we need to refine this issue? Because from my understanding, we have to check one by one and then create. So this is like an epic. Yeah, that's what we mean by the refinement. Create the implementation issues. Okay.
Well,
yeah, that's a little questionable based on our planning instructions, whether we mean, so once, in my opinion, the implementation issues are created during planning breakdown, right? We get through this discussion and we say, okay, we're ready to break it down. We sign it off to DRIs for the front end or back end if it's big enough and it needs that. And then once those implementation issues are created, then they get assigned off to refinement. So I consider the breakdown of implementation issues part of planning breakdown. If you were on container security and you are working with Sam, he moves things over to refinement right at this moment. So there's kind of a fuzzy line there, but we get the general idea. Quick question though, if we do skip refinement, can you guys confirm this is something that can be done by anyone, front end or back end, right? This isn't a front end or back end specific audit, right?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't think there would be implementation issues. To your point, Savash, I think that this kind of skips over implementation issues because the outcome of this audit would be implementation issues. It's not like there's going to be a breakdown of this beyond what it's already is, right? Does that make sense?
But
So
the table, it seems like it touches like the whole functionality of the security dashboard.
Totally.
So,
that would be the work of this issue though, right? The work of this issue. And when you pick it up and you say, I'm assigning it to myself and I'm working on it, it would be to go through all of these rows on this table and say, is the auditor access what I expect it to be? Yes. Okay, move on. No, create an implementation issue. And that would be the implementation issue creation. So I think in that case, the term implementation issue is kind of misleading. It might maybe bug issue would be the more appropriate one, but it's the issue that gets created out of this audit.
Yeah.
Will it be proper to move it to development, ready for development?
I think once we get the answer to that question, Sebastian, that makes sense, right? Because we don't need to do any further breakdown of implementation issues from this until the audit happens and they determine that there are more. So many words, sorry.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Subhashish, where I think this can pretty much move straight to in or ready for dev. Not in dev, straight for ready for dev. Because there really isn't refinement. I mean, this is almost like a design issue. Where
yeah, I thought of it more like a spike, but
A
yeah.
spike and time
spike,
box.
yeah.
Like,
Do we have a spike label?
We do.
We should put that label in there.
You think?
Make
Okay.
this a spike.
Well, I will do that right now. I feel like it's slightly different, but it's the closest term we have. I don't know if there's, let's see, maybe there's an audit label, but then I feel like then we will end up in someone else's radar.
Like yeah, like in analysis or.
I think we just need to roll with it. We get the idea.
Go,
it's not a bug. It's not a feature. It's a spike or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, we don't have enough of these to make new labels.
No more labels. We're not doing new labels.
We don't need a new workflow for this. We don't need a new workflow.
Okay, I'll follow up with Matt on that. Let's talk briefly, even if we're not able to get all the way through this, around the automatically resolve vulnerabilities. Would it be helpful to just go through the design images quickly and have a discussion? I see a couple of nods. I saw Subhashish and Subhash nod. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
I think I had one question about it.
Go ahead.
But I think it got answered further down. But like, so when we do the auto resolve, like it just puts in there as auto resolve as the resolution, right? There's no other user input that is going to go in, because we were talking about how we were going to annotate resolutions at one point too, right? It's going to go in there as auto resolve.
You know, and this is where I think we need Matt on the conversation to help answer some of these questions. And he is in a different meeting right now. So we can wait and talk about this next week if that would be easier. Because I don't know the answer to your question, Jonathan. I've gone through this and I actually didn't hit on that either.
Andy had put, it's something Andy had posted. He put naming auto resolve, and I think just putting that as the resolution auto resolve. Because that is the question. The question is, do we want the users to, sorry, there's yelling in the background.
Don't worry.
It's summertime.
It doesn't even faze me at all.
But like, do we want the users to say, hey, yeah, this did get resolved because there was an open issue? We're going to automatically close any issues that were open for the vulnerabilities once it gets resolved, because it might be resolved from another issue. And I don't think I saw anything like that in there.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand what you're saying, Jonathan. So when a vulnerability does get auto resolved, if it had already had an issue related to it or probably created from it, do we affect the status of that issue when the vulnerability is auto resolved?
Yeah, like, do we want to automatically close that issue, or do we want to like have something that says, hey, you need to go check out these open issues because this vulnerability was resolved? And
did you say that you did or did not see an answer to that question in this issue?
I kind of see an answer to it in the workflow preferences. Auto-resolving a vulnerability with an open issue could lead to a communication disconnect between the person planning the work on the vulnerability and the vulnerability itself. We should work to understand the desired behavior. So yeah, so we have to figure that part out. That's part of it.
So that's still an outstanding question.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm suggesting that maybe we could go through this at a high level, but if you guys have a bunch of questions on the requirements, I think we need Matt here. I mean, Andy's still out on paternity leave, so he won't be here to answer either. Do you guys think it's valuable to go through this now, or do you want to wait? We do have a couple of other topics on the agenda that we may not make it to if we go through this right now.
I think we need Matt on this to answer some of these questions. I couldn't
agree more. I was saying that in a very pointed way. I was like, this doesn't make it. Okay. So let's go back to the agenda then. I added one item under other discussions. So as you guys saw in our Slack channel, we have completed the generic security report schema implementation. I'm very excited about that. Testing is hard. Testing is hard for a number of reasons. One, because we don't have people that are actually actively using this new schema. We don't have good data that's coming that represents all of these elements. Thankfully, Tiago was able to set up the test data. I just saw this morning. So in response to this request that I had linked to here, he manipulated the scan results for the test project to add the data. I've got some concerns that he's adding the data as he thinks it should look, not how, you know, I feel like maybe we need someone from the scanner teams. I'm not sure who should confirm that that data is what we would expect to get from a scanner that implements this, but Tiago is very knowledgeable and he's read through this, and at least it gives us something to test with. Which left me with the outstanding question of testing the validation. So in the generic security report schema, an issue kind of got snuck in around schema validation. And I was talking to Matt about this the other day. I'm not sure if anyone on this call worked on that, but this isn't specific to just the generic security report schema. I think it's doing validation at a larger level, the JSON schema validation. It is added to the agenda right here, schema validation. So does anyone on this call have any experience with this? Have you guys worked on the validation or the generic schema and have any insights into this that you could provide and how we could test this?
I have not worked in that area.
I didn't.
It's been mostly Mihao and Mehmet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we might have to leave this one for now as well. So this is a good opportunity for me to say good job, everybody. I mean, it's really exciting that we've made it through this. Hopefully it'll get used. I know it's already being used by some of the scanner teams, certain elements. So I think the DAS team is starting to use the diff view or the named list data type. But the vision is that third-party scanners can be introduced very easily. The hope is that other GitLab scanners will adhere more to using this as well. I had a question around metrics. I don't know, maybe this is a question you guys can answer for me. Do we get any data out of the box just from API calls? Is it possible to look at any data as a result of like how often this validation is failing or anything without instrumenting it?
I bet that stuff's going to Sentry. If we have a failure, I mean those errors get logged. We might be able to pull full information from the logs.
But now those would be failures like code failures, or would they actually show like if an expected validation, or sorry, the validation fails and it's not throwing like a 500 error or something like that, would that still get logged? Do we log all calls in Sentry?
No, I mean I think we log all the errors. But the logs themselves, in the Elastic logs, I think catch all the calls.
Yeah, I agree.
So we should be able to pull information from there.
Okay, that's good information. I can create an issue too, because I mean there's going to be some work to do that, and put it through our process to request that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything we could do on the dashboard. Those dashboard windows are.
When you say the dashboard,
with all the graphs and everything, that the GitLab dashboard.
You mean Sisense?
No, I don't know. It's not Sisense. I don't think.
No, it's like a Sentry, like a.
What is it? It's I don't even have it.
Grafana?
Yeah, it's Grafana.
Okay.
Yeah, the Grafana.
Okay. But that would be pulling then from the Elastic logs. Is that the thought?
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't messed with the Grafana at all.
I'll create an issue. This is good information. Sebastian, did you have something to add? Sorry.
My only concern is like if it is not failing silently, if we are not logging it, it will not be in the Sentry. Yeah. So if in some places maybe we need to add some logs. Yeah.
Like if we're majestically recovering it, it's not the right term, but I think I'm going to start using that term. Gracefully,
saw
gracefully
gracefully,
recovering.
yeah, because I saw that already. That's why I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
I added, yes, that's why.
Right. And that's my thought. In this case, it's validation. So the failures would be like an expected outcome of like, hey, your JSON's broken.
Yeah.
Rather than just bombing, it's going to handle that gracefully, like you said. So there might be some instrumentation in the code just to log and capture that information in addition to the work in the Grafana or wherever to query it. Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you very much. Matt has the last agenda item here and he's not here. Subhashish, you've already responded. Do you want to go ahead and verbalize this for the call?
Yeah, so I think Matt's question was like why we are not showing the dismissed findings like in the query, because we don't have the ability to query by scope. And by default, if it is unscoped, by default it is unscoped and it doesn't return the dismissed status one, the dismissed ones. I think that's what I saw in the code. Yeah.
Would you be willing to add that response in Slack format as well? I appreciate that you put it here, but just for transparency, or you can just point to here for him and say your answer is right there. But
I can
just to close that loop.
Sure, I will do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That makes a lot of sense too. We are, like I said, I will move the auto resolve issue to next week when we can talk about it with Matt, and I'll spend a little bit more time, especially looking into the details that you were just referring to, Jonathan. But I think we've hit the bottom of our agenda, unless if you guys have any other topics that you want to talk about. Also, next week we'll be doing the 14.1 kickoff. So we'll go through the front end and back end issues that are scoped for 14.1 in the meeting next week.
I will be out.
You're gonna miss it.
Maybe. It depends on whether or not there's actually a hurricane hitting Florida or not.
Enjoy, Jonathan.
We're supposed to go to Florida, but yeah, we'll find out because there's also a tropical depression that's coming up the Gulf.
I don't want you to miss your vacation. We're recording. I'm gonna stop my candid response. I hope you're gonna go on vacation. That would be horrible. It's not recording. We are recording.
Yeah, so we can stop it.
Okay.